Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the 2024 Annual General Meeting of PYC Therapeutics Limited. There is a quorum present. I'm pleased to declare the meeting open. My name is Alan Tribe. I'm the chair of the company. And here with me today on my immediate left, I have the CEO, Rowan Hockings. Next to him, Andrew Taylor, our CFO and Joint Company Secretary. And on the far left, Kevin Hart, also Joint Company Secretary. Due to the time differences, our two US-based non-executive directors are not in attendance today, and they send their apologies. A copy of the notice convening this meeting has already been circulated and sets out the nature and purpose of the resolutions to be considered in the formal part of this meeting, and I propose to take that notice as read. The voting on all items of business on the agenda will be conducted by a poll, and the results of the poll will be announced to the Australian Stock Exchange later today. But before we move to the formal business of the meeting, I would like to provide some observations about the company and two factors that I consider important to our current and future operations. Then I'll hand you over to PYC's CEO, Rowan Hockings, who will provide a review of the business in 2024 and the future outlook. And following this, we will take questions. And there we'll go to the formal part of the business and the poll at the very end of that part, and then the closing of the meeting. So firstly, some comments from me. PYC is an emerging leader in the field of precision RNA therapeutics for patients with genetic diseases caused by haploinsufficiency in the eye, kidney, and central nervous system. The company is developing 4 first-in-class drug candidates in areas of severe unmet need for the tens of millions of patients affected by these diseases. 2 drugs are already in clinical trials in the United States and Australia. They address the blinding eye diseases retinitis pigmentosa type 11 and autosomal dominant optical atrophy. Clinical trials in the 3rd program, autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease, will commence in Australia next year. Furthermore, there is a pipeline of earlier stage programs, the most advanced of which is to develop a treatment for the debilitating childhood disease Phelan-McDermid syndrome. It is an impressive pipeline of drugs. The company is developing at a fast pace and is progressing on each of these programs for the patients who need them. You'll hear more about these programs in Rowan's presentation, which follows. The availability of capital and the organisation to support operations are both key considerations for an expanding company, and I would like to address both of these points now. PYC is an efficient, cost-effective organisation. For example, in the last fiscal year, the total amount, that is the total amount spent by the company after government grants received, was Australian dollars 43 million, which equates to about $28 million US. The results achieved from this expenditure added significant value to the company's programs and therefore the company itself. It's been an excellent investment of shareholder funds. Further progression of the programs will, of course, require further investment and, in turn, access to additional funding. And the potential sources of that funding are the sale or licensing of one of the company's assets, or the issue of additional shares through equity capital markets. I'm pleased to report that interest from third parties in both the company's individual assets and also its shares have improved access to future funding. And we've seen an increase in the value of the company's shares over the past year. currently in the order of 20 cents versus 7 cents at this time last year. And this has improved the terms upon which future capital could be raised. But the overall market capitalization of the company remains low compared to its US peers, making any capital sourced from equity capital markets relatively expensive by comparison. As each of these funding options is considered, the interests of patients and shareholders remain paramount in determining the best way forward. In addition to capital, the other key requirements to support growth and development are internal resources and organisation. Our team has continued to be strengthened with the recruitment of additional skill sets within the past year, and this will continue. Selecting the right people with the right capability and commitment to the PYC culture is vital. This time next year, PYC will in all probability have 3 drugs in clinical trials, with a 4th headed in that direction. Furthermore, the pipeline of earlier stage programs offers good prospects for more drug developments. It is an exciting time for both patients and shareholders. And although much has been achieved, we look forward to more success from the hard work and commitment of the PYC team, and I again recognise their achievements and thank them. And lastly, to shareholders, both long-standing and new, we appreciate your support, and it is our goal to achieve an above-average return for your investment by pursuing the worthwhile objective of providing treatments for patients, most of whom have no treatment options available today. Future prospects are excellent. So now we will proceed with the formal business of the meeting as set out in the notice. First of all, proxies. The company has received valid proxies from 127 shareholders, totaling 997 million odd shares, which represents 21% of the issued capital of the company. After each resolution is displayed here on the screen, I will invite questions from the floor, and I'll limit questions to the motion being considered. Once we've been through all the resolutions, a poll will be taken. Ballot papers have already been distributed to eligible shareholders at the time of registration, and I'll ask you to complete these after all the resolutions have been considered. The poll results will be announced to the Australian Stock Exchange later today. And just to note that each shareholder can only vote for his or her personal shareholding at this time. So the first item on the agenda is the annual report. It's to consider the financial statements, the director's statement and report, and the auditor's report for the financial year ended 30th June 2024, all of which have been made available to shareholders in accordance with the requirements of the Corporations Act, and we have some copies here today as well. Company's auditors, PricewaterhouseCoopers, are represented here today by Adam Thompson in accordance with the requirements of the Corporations Act, and Adam is available to address appropriate questions or comments from shareholders on this agenda item. So, are there any questions or comments in relation to the reports under consideration? Adam gets off lightly yet again. Well done. So there's no requirement for a vote on this item, so we'll proceed to the second item of business, which is the remuneration report. Further details, including key management personnel, which includes directors, voting prohibitions and voting of undirected proxies, are included in the notice of the annual general meeting. The remuneration report is as set out in the annual report. In accordance with legislation, the vote on the resolution is advisory only and does not bind the directors of the company. However, the board will, of course, seriously take the outcome of the vote into consideration when reviewing remuneration practices and policies of the company. So now refer shareholders to the screen. which displays the resolution in full and the valid proxy results. I now formally move that the resolution be put to the meeting in the form set out in the notice. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Thank you. Well, you'll get a chance to vote on this resolution at the closing of this business. Now, re-election of one of our US-based non-executive directors, Jason Haddock. Jason has been a member of the board for 3 years and has a background in finance and operational experience in the biopharmaceutical industry in a variety of finance, strategic, commercial, and business development capacities. He has held CFO and COO roles for business units in Asia Pacific, Europe, and the United States. As I mentioned earlier, due to time differences, he is unable to attend today and has tendered his apologies for his absence. I now refer shareholders to the screen displaying the resolution in full and the proxy results, which are strongly in favour of his re-election. Are there any questions? I move the motion, so are there any questions? Thank you. Very well. We'll get a chance to vote on that again. Resolution 3 is the consolidation of securities. So the next item relates to the consolidation of shares and unlisted options in the company on a 10-to-1 ratio. If approved by shareholders, the number of shares on issue will be reduced on the basis that for every 10 shares currently held, they will be consolidated into 1 share. Similarly, the number of options on issue will be consolidated on the same basis of 10 for 1, and the exercise price of the options will be amended in the inverse proportion to the consolidation. That is, the exercise price will increase by a factor of 10. So basically, we're reducing everything by 10. And the reason for this is some of the considerations are that the company has a relatively large number of shares on issue compared to its peers. We have 4.6 odd billion shares on issue, which people in the United States have difficulty wrapping their brain around. The consolidation is expected to reduce the level of volatility in the share price and a more consistent valuation of the company, and assist in the positioning of the company's long-term growth by making an investment in PYC more attractive to institutional and other shareholders. So just a symptom of the fact that the company is growing and maturing. I now refer shareholders to the screen displaying the resolution in full and the valid proxy results, again reflecting strong support for the resolution. I now formally move that resolution 3 be put to the meeting in the form set out in the notice. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Very well. Well, you're going to get a chance to vote through poll on that resolution also. So it's now time to take the polls for resolutions 1 to 3, and a representative from the share registry will act as the returning officer. Recent changes to the Corporations Act have changed the law in relation to the obligations of proxies who vote where a poll is called on a resolution. If the proxy is the chair of the meeting at which the resolution is voted on, the proxy must vote on a poll as directed. If the proxy is not the chair of the meeting, the proxy need not vote on the poll, but if the proxy does so, the proxy must vote as directed. If you are a proxy holder with open votes, you may vote as you wish. So you've been handed a ballot paper for the poll on registration this morning, and they're now being collected. The resolution upon which the poll is being taken is set out in the notice paper, and I think we're well advanced in the process. Has everybody had a chance to vote? One gentleman over here. Third row. No. No. Okay. Thank you. Well, that closes the formal part of the business today. And just before we close the meeting, there's just one thing I'd like to share with you, going off agenda a bit here. Last weekend, one of our lead scientists presented in Amsterdam at a conference of patients who suffer from autosomal dominant optical atrophy, one of our drugs. And she reported back that it had gone extremely well. The patients were highly motivated to obviously embrace any trials and future treatment. But I was impressed by her closing comments, and I'll just share those with you because I think it speaks to what I might refer to as the culture and dedication of the group here. Speaking directly with patients reminded me why we do this work: to make a real difference in people's lives. Hearing their stories and hopes connects the science I work on to its human impact. It's about more than developing a drug. It's about being part of their healing journey and seeing the true purpose behind every challenge we overcome. I think that speaks largely of the sentiment and motivation that drives PYC forward. It's an amazing team of people. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll close the meeting and thank you again for your attendance, and look forward to seeing you same time next year. Thank you.